This is the interior design class for Salt Lake Community College, the drafting and space planning class. And today's lesson will be on lettering. Okay, these are the supplies that you're going to need for this lesson on lettering. You're going to need a table. It can be a kitchen table, a card table, whatever you have. Make sure it has a straight edge on one side. You're going to want your T-square here, and this can be 24 inches long, 18 inches. Mine's 42, but I think 24 is probably about the right size that you'll need. You're going to need some vellum paper, a triangle, just whatever triangle you were able to purchase, pencils. I'm just going to be using my Statler regular pencils here. You're going to need a hard lead and a soft lead, so like a 2H and an HB. Some tape, and just the assignment and the instructions on the assignment. So the first thing that you'll want to do is you're going to take a piece of vellum paper and you will tape this up to your drafting surface. And what you want to do here is you want to make sure that your T-square is tight to the edge of your table, so that this creates a perpendicular line to the edge of your table. And then you're going to line your paper up with the T-square so that it's square to each other. And just put this anywhere where it feels comfortable on your table, but you're just going to kind of down here look at where that T-square is and line up your paper so that it's nice and square, and then you're going to tape that down into place. And I would recommend, in fact highly suggest, that you tape all four corners just so it doesn't move. If you leave a corner out, your paper tends to move on you just when you don't want it to. So I'll get that all taped up, and then we will get started with some lettering. Okay, so you should have already watched the Ames lettering guide video that I posted with the lesson. I also highly recommend that you watch the 30 by 40 design workshop video. He has a slightly different lettering style, but I think it's good for you to kind of see different ways of doing the lettering, and he just does a really good job at putting together his videos and doing that. Great resource for drafting and design and architecture and interior design and all those things. So, but just a quick review kind of on the Ames lettering guide. Along the bottom here, you can kind of see, probably not in this video, but there's little numbers if you've kind of turn that, and this will set the height of your text. And it's in 30 seconds. So if you set it to 4, the number setting 4. Let me see if I can find all the way down to there. So that would be 4 30 seconds, and that would mean that you would be able to do text height that is 1/8 inch, which is 4 30 seconds. Simplified fraction would be 1/8. Okay, and that is using these lines here, each one of these dots. Now it also happens to be that these dots over here on the left hand side will give you lines spaced 1/8 inch apart. What these here do is they give you actually a smaller space in between, so that you can have a little space between each line. And you can use however you want to. However you want to do that. If you wanted larger, say 3/16, you would set this to a 6 and get a little bit taller text. And 1/8 inch is standard, so I typically set this to a 4 when I'm using it. 3/30 seconds would be the absolute smallest, but I have noticed over the years that typically that's really just a little bit too small to be able to see and write effectively by hand. Printed, it looks fine, but when you're writing by hand, it's much more difficult. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your pencil and you're going to use your harder lead, your 2H or H or pencil, the hardest one, and make sure that it's sharp, and you're going to put it into each one of these holes, and you're just going to basically draw it like that. Bring it back to the beginning, and then you're going to skip a line You're going to pull that there. Okay. So notice on here that there's a little arc. That's telling you to skip that other middle one for this one. And then you're going to go to the next one up. Draw there, line that comes across. Bring it back, and then again, following that little arc, you skip that next hole. Pull a line there. Back. Line across. Back to the beginning. Skip that next one, following that little arc that's on there, and doing that. Okay, now that you've got your lines drawn, you're ready to start lettering. A couple of things to note. Typical letters are about in the shape of a square. And there's some, I want to call repetition between the letters. There's some similarity in the way how you do each one of those, each letter. So I'm going to kind of talk you through each one of those. Let me zoom in just a little bit more here. Okay, so for a beginner, you're going to want to use some sort of a straight edge, such as a triangle, as you see here. You can also use your Ames lettering guide and just flip it so that you've got that straight edge that you can put against your T-square. So I'll use the lettering guide or a straight edge for a few of the verticals, and then I'll just kind of start showing you how to do it just by hand. And once you've drawn thousands of letters, you'll be able to draw a pretty straight line that you need. So an A has a particular angle to it. So it comes down this degree and that degree. Okay, so it has that very particular shape to it. And then the cross can either be horizontal or it can have a slight uptick to it. I prefer it to be just horizontal. You do want it to overlap just a little bit on the horizontal, as well as the other, the top where it kind of crosses there just a little bit. The next one's a B, so you always draw your verticals first. So I would use that straight edge, draw my vertical line for my B. And then for me, it's going to be a small bulb and then a bigger one second. Let's come back to the A. So you'll notice that that shape of the A, that's an upside down V that we're going to use in just a minute. That shape for me right there, that is a 3. Also, that top shape is the P, and it's also the beginning for the R with just a line added to it. So the C is just kind of an ellipse. Starts at the top, comes to there. A D, draw that vertical first. And then it's kind of like the C, but in reverse. That. And then an E, draw the vertical line first. And there's several ways that you can do the E. Sorry if I'm blocking these out for you. So horizontal, or you can have a slight uptick. So a short top, a long middle, and a medium kind of on the bottom, right? So, but those first lines, that's going to be your F in just a minute. So kind of decide how you want to do that. You can also do an E with the vertical, a long, a short, and a long, right? So you can kind of vary how long you want those lines to be. But just remember, however you do the E, you're going to make the F match that. So I like to do the short top and the medium to longer middle line there. Okay. The G is just a C, and you kind of put an arrow at the end, a horizontal and a vertical. That's the only vertical that you draw last. An H is going to be 2 verticals. Okay. And then you have a decision to make, whether to put the horizontal up in the top third or in the bottom third. I like to put mine in the bottom third. Some people, however, do their H and put it up there in the top third, like that. An I is just a straight line. Some people will put 2 little marks, or for their 1, they'll put a little tick at the top. I found that my eyes usually don't get confused if I'm writing a note. I'll spell out the word 1 if I need the number 1. J is just a little hook with a straight line. K is the straight line, and then you're going to bring that connection point in the top third and then straight down at an angle. Notice that that angle matches the same angle as the A over here. So those should be about that same angle. L is straight down, flat horizontal. All right, let me come back over to here so you can see these maybe a little bit better. An M, there's multiple ways to do an M. My preference is to do 2 verticals, and then I have them come and I meet in that top third. Right? A second way to do an M is 2 verticals and then bring it all the way down. And I didn't cross that one very well. That's bad right there. Let me do it again. You can see that this isn't the way I normally do my M. There you go, an M. You can also do them just at angles with a slight slant to them, or like that. Okay, so there's lots of different ways to do an M. It's just you're gonna want to be consistent in your style and how it kind of relates to the other letters. Again, I like this first one here because it takes up less space and it's easy for me to do. Okay, an N is your 2 verticals, and you can bring that all the way down to the bottom. I've also seen people that will do an N with 2 verticals and then connect it in the top third like that. And I kind of like this one over here because it matches what I do with my thirds with my M there. So that's typically the way that I'll do that. Okay, an O is just another ellipse. Okay, that. Your P is a vertical line with the kind of a short bulb like that. Okay, and then let's go and get the Q and R here also. So Q is just the ellipse with that line. Again, that angle is being repeated kind of everywhere. And then the R is a P with that straight line that comes down. Okay, an S to me is one of the more difficult ones to do just because it's just the curves are hard to draw. But I like to do an S that kind of comes back short in the top third and then has a little bit bigger at the bottom. So let me see if I can do that again. Just a little S like that. T, vertical and a horizontal. A U is like a J, but it's completely elongated. A V, again, it's that A, but upside down and missing the horizontal. W, however you did your M, your W is just an upside down M. X is just the same angle as the A's, but they cross. A Y wants to come and meet at the top third. And then a Z, again, that angle from the A that we started out with. Okay, so that's all of the letters of the alphabet, how I do it. So Z, and then let's go through the numbers. Just shift this over a little bit. Sorry for the bumpiness. I've had to kind of jerry-rig a support here. So numbers, 1, 2, 3 is just that B, right, without the vertical line. 4, there's a couple ways you can do it. That, or that. 5, you just do a short vertical, again, that top third, your circle. 5 there. 6, just this curve like that. Right. 7, straight line, again back to that same angle that we have for the A and the Z and all of our angled ones. Okay. And 8 is kind of just a little snowman, is a small circle at the top and a big circle underneath it. Now oh, didn't see that. So do that 8 again. Maybe you can see that as I'm drawing. Okay. There's 2 ways to do a 9. I like my 9 to basically just be a 6, right? Turned upside down. So I do this, and then that. I can do it a little bit better so those connect. So that's my 9. You can also do a 9 as kind of a backwards P, like that. Okay. All right, but again, for my style, I kind of like this. Not necessarily my 2 best 9s ever, but it'll be good. And then, of course, a 0 is just, again, an ellipse. You can put a line through it if you desire, or not worry about that. The reason why I'm not too worried about an O and a 0 or an I and a 1 getting mixed up is because when we dimension things, which is where we almost always use our numbers, you're going to put 1 foot 0 inches. So that kind of helps us know that we're talking about letters and dimensioning, or know the difference between our letters and our dimensioning as we're actually lettering things. So go try this. You're going to use this lettering to complete assignment 1, or you can kind of develop a variation on this, kind of your own style. From here on out, I'll expect all of the assignments to be done with your lettering style, and I'll want to see grid lines, or your guidelines, excuse me, on everything that you do. So at least a top and a bottom guideline, 1/8 inch tall, again, for most of your text. In title blocks, it might be a little bit bigger than that, but I will be looking for your guidelines and that you're really working to develop your own drawing style. All right, thanks.